Hey folks, so today we're going to talk about spring water. So first thing first, not all sources are good. You have to be aware that many sources have water that is mixed with rainwater. So hey, so when you find a source, you need to make sure that the water source is not contaminated by rainfall. It's extremely important. So this source is coming from the mountain there, and I talked with the guy who owns the whole thing, and yeah, he's made a really good setup. The spring water comes from the ground, and he's made like a cement like a pool, you know, and he accumulates the water in there up in the mountain, and this is covered so the rainfall cannot mix with the water. And then there's tubes, and it comes close to the road here, but it comes really from the mountain, which is pretty good. So I've been drinking this spring water for about a year now, and I have no accumulation of any kind of toxin. I've been to probably 10 water source before, so most of them were like springs in the wilds, but there are always contamination sources, and I'm gonna talk about that while I'm driving and bringing this back home. All right, so to cure your body, you cannot drink like normal water, city water, I would say, that has chloride in it or fluoride in it, and that is often like that often comes from rivers, and that these same rivers receive like the treated water and the pollution from, you know, agricultural activities and other things like that. So if you want to cure your body, the first step, you gotta stop to intoxicate your body. So you gotta work extremely hard, because we live in a world where we're attacked by toxins and pollution all over the place and all over the time. So we are constantly exposed to toxin when we drink, when we eat, when we breathe, and when we put stuff on our skin, when we put clothes on ourselves. So there's so many toxins, you wouldn't believe this, and that's why people are sick, and that's why people don't feel well, and that's why so many people are sick and are looking for answers. So in Canada, in Quebec especially, we have like the most important reserve of clean water on the earth. And even here, I have trouble, and very huge trouble, finding quality water that is quality high enough to not intoxicate my body, but better than that, to clean my body and to cure my body. Because clean water and good water can really clean your body, and it is an essential part that will let you cure your body. If you don't have good water, you will never be able to experience what I've experienced, which is the regeneration of the body. And I've experienced that for many years. The body can regenerate itself, and life gives you another chance if you understand its rules. And you know, we're composed out of 70% of water. So water is like a crucial thing, and if you drink polluted water, even if just a slight contamination, you have to drink water every day, at least 2 liters a day. So if there's pollution in your water, you constantly absorb this pollution, and eventually it will accumulate in your body, and this goes pretty fast. So I was pretty lucky back then, in 2005, about 2004, when I cured my body and I regenerated my body. I was living on a farm, and we had good spring water on the spot, you know. So at the farm, we had like a source, and the water was good, and I was drinking that, and I was fine. But a few years later, because of the development around, the source became contaminated, so the water was no longer good, and I was still sick, and I was still working on my health, and I could not use this water anymore. So I faced a huge challenge and a huge problem, which took me many years to solve, because I tried to find another water source that was not intoxicated. And believe me, it was a huge challenge. And I've visited many spring waters in the wilds, and I've tried like to drink other people water, like other people that had farm and that could maybe provide me with clean water. And what I noticed is that clean water is extremely rare in our days. So we'll talk about different categories of water source, and I'm gonna explain to you what toxins I've found in these categories. So the first category would be like the farmland and you know, rural areas, so agricultural areas where there's a lot of fields and crops, and you know, these kind of places. So you might think this will be a good water because this is outside the city, and you know, there's no pollution here. But that's not true. There's a lot of pollution in agricultural areas, because to produce those crops, they use a lot of chemical products to remove like the insects, and other products are used to remove like the herbs. So there are so many products, chemical products, that are, you know, spread on those crops, that it accumulates in the ground. And in the ground there's water circulating in the ground, and this water provides people with their water source. So if you go there and take water from a person in a rural area, agricultural area, you're most likely gonna be faced with toxins like chemical products that comes from agricultural activities. And that's just a little part of the toxins that you are meant to face. There's also the problem that they spread so much pig shit, you know, to feed the soil. They have this stupid idea of thinking that they have to put the shit of other animals, like cows and pigs, especially pigs, which is extremely deadly and not good for the health of nobody. So they spread the shit everywhere, and what it does is that it contaminates not only the water, but it contaminates the soil, and all the crops that will come from this soil are intoxicated with many toxins, and this is also to avoid. So you don't want to drink this kind of water. There are some areas where the water is still good, but you have to be extremely careful. You have to ask yourself the question, what has been spread on those fields? And yeah, that will most likely be a problem. So I have not been able to find good water, and you know, I cannot go to every house and ask for water. So maybe 3 or 4 places that I've tried that were agricultural areas, the water was not good enough to be used every day for purification purpose. Eventually you would accumulate toxins by drinking this kind of water. So then I turned myself into the wilds, you know, the forest, the remote areas. So I went as far as 250 kilometers away from any big city, like 250 kilometers away from Montreal, for example, which is not like a huge city. Montreal is a small city. There's about 3 million people living there, maybe 4. So it's a small city. And still, I went like 200 kilometers away, and the water was good at some point. It was good, but it was too close from a road, and it was a spring that was taking place like close to a road. So sometimes you see springs in the road sides, you know. And the problem was it was contaminated by roads, you know, particles. So like dust coming from cars and dust coming from vehicle passing on this road. And the other problem that I saw is that, that I taste, and that's why I don't go there anymore, is that you had to go there on the days that was not raining. So if you go there on rainy days, the spring water mix itself with the rain, and the rain is extremely toxic because it contains like all the condensation of car pollution and all other pollution, but especially from the cars. So your exhaust gas contains like metals, heavy metals, and a lot of other toxins, and those toxins are in the atmosphere. And when the rain form these little raindrops, you know, well, it captures this pollution and brings it back to the ground. And if you drink that, you're gonna drink everything that was in that exhaust gas. So you can taste the metal when you drink this kind of water for a few days, or sometimes you taste it right away, but sometimes it takes a few days and you taste that metal and that pollution, and that's extremely toxic and extremely acid for the body. So the rain is extremely acid and extremely toxic. If it's blended with the water, the spring water, then it's extremely toxic. You don't want to drink that. So that's a very important point, and you have to be extremely careful when you go take spring water. Make sure it doesn't mix with water. Make sure you don't go there on rainy days. Wait at least 24 hours after rain until you go collect this kind of water. And I would recommend going after 2 or 3 consecutive sunny days. So you have to wait until the water is really coming from the ground and has been filtered by the earth and by the ground. So you have to wait, because if you go on the rainy days, the rain enters the soil and it mixes with the spring water, and then you collect this water and it has not been filtered. It's coming directly from the sky. So that's the first thing you should know about spring water. It's extremely important that you don't get this water on rainy days, and it's extremely important that you go there on a day that is sunny and dry, especially. So these are a common source of intoxication for water, but there are plenty more. For example, once I tried a source that was a city source. So it was, you know, managed by a small village, and there was like a house, and this house was like dedicated to this water. And the problem with this setup was they had like big metal tube a big metal tubing, and they were like, you know, collecting water from the ground, but it was staying in those big metal tubes, and the water was really tasting that metal, and that's extremely toxic also. These big metal can, you know, leak very dangerous metal, heavy metal, like lead and other ones, so mercury and so on. So you don't want to drink this kind of water. Other places I've seen, they had good water coming from the ground, but the water was intoxicated by the fact that, you know, when they make a source nowadays, they take a plastic tube, and sometimes this plastic tube is 600 feet long, and it goes into the ground, and you know, it collects the water and brings it back to the house. And this 600 feet of plastic tube is often a contamination source, and it will contaminate your water. Unfortunately, it will contaminate it with a plastic toxin. And after that, most modern houses have, you know, those little plastic tubes instead of being copper. All the plumbery, so all the tubes in the house that, you know, brings water everywhere in every room is made of plastic. And also this is extremely problematic, because I have noticed that it has an impact on the water, and if you drink that all the time, you're most likely gonna be intoxicated by this plastic, and you're gonna, you know, get like white hairs, and you're gonna kill yourself slowly. It's like any other toxin, you know. So it's extremely complicated and extremely hard, and as I'm trying to explain that in English especially, but as I'm trying to explain that, I know that many people are thinking, well, this guy's crazy, this is not important, this is not relevant. Well, it is actually, it's extremely relevant, and it's extremely important. And if you want to cure your body, these things will make huge differences, because your body needs to be purified, it needs to be in equilibrium with the world it lives in, and the body has not been created or engineered to live in harmony with pollution. The body has been created from a huge equilibrium with nature, a perfect equilibrium. And this equilibrium is necessary for us to fulfill and to achieve what we're meant to be in this world. So it's extremely important that you pay attention to those little details. And if you're aware that drinking like city water will probably you know, kill you, and will eventually have lots of impact on your creativity, on your personality, well, you will put the time and you will put the effort to go get this water, and to, you know, maybe drive for 30 minutes and find that water. And for all of you people who think that you can drink like plastic bottle water, I'm sorry to say you're all wrong, because plastic bottle water is intoxicated by plastic in a very, very huge way. And every time you drink water that has been put in a plastic bottle, you drink plastic. And plastic is the most dangerous intoxication source out there. It's how you will develop and you will get cancer in the long term if you have too much exposition to petrochemicals. So like all the sub-product or all the products that you can make with petroleum, so plastic is one of them. So the more you're exposed to that, the more you're gonna develop cancer, the more you're gonna be sick, and you won't understand what's the problem. You know, you buy a new car And in this new car, there's a new smell, you know, that smell that we characterize as new. And this is just a blend of cancerous material and odors that are coming from plastic mostly, and from petroleum derived product. So you have to be extremely careful. You cannot avoid all these intoxication when it comes to breathing. You know, it's extremely hard not to breathe. You know, you have to breathe. And when you just breathe the air outside, the smog and the air pollution, which is like has reached such a high level of contamination now, you cannot avoid to breathe those toxins. So if you can find clean water, at least when you drink, you're purifying your body, you're expulsing the toxins that you have accumulated elsewhere. But if you breathe that pollution, and you drink that pollution, and you eat that pollution, and I'm not even talking about eating well or eating not well, you know, healthy or not healthy, I'm just thinking about how much toxin you absorb, well, that will help your body to cure, or that will slowly or fastly, you know, lead you to problems. So that's about it. That's what I had to say about water. You can ask me questions. I'm always there to answer questions. So whatever the questions, ask them, okay? I can provide you with good information. And if you're sick, and if you're looking for someone that can help you without like trying to sell you anything, and that has gone through what you're going through, and that has succeeded in curing himself without the doctors, without medication, without operation, just by having like a knowledge of what is intoxicating you and how you can cure your body with just getting closer and closer to what was the plan. You know, you can call that God's plan for humans. And especially that is not what we are doing right now. So the way we're doing right now, we're getting it all wrong. So if you want, just ask me a question. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and see you later.